You're not going to comment on my Spider-Man mug? You don't like
Beautiful. It's very beautiful. Is there any special reason for that?
Yeah, my world's worst dog trainer cup was dirty and it's in the dishwasher.
Well, then I have to brag a little bit. Look at this nice one. This is a small Italian one for my espresso, and it's actually my daughter who made it to me.
Your daughter made it.
My daughter, she's very creative. So yeah,
It's nice. 140,000 views. Concrete track. Let's talk about it. How did you get the idea to come up with a concrete track that's permanent?
Before we talk about that, we have to make that absolutely clear. Please don't go into that video anymore. Please don't do that. Because the man who made that track in concrete for me, I promise him when there's 150,000 people who have seen that video, I give him a big lunch. So please don't go in and watch it. I can't afford
Now
it.
I know you're from Denmark.
So
Now I know you're trying to duck lunch.
exactly. So the story about that concrete track, which is actually the whole reason for this podcast right now, is in the beginning when I start preaching, talking about track in a little bit another way compared to what people was used to, I was very much into, I would rather start with the muscle memory and the behavior in the dog as the judge wants to see, and then later teach the dog to use the nose for scent and smell. Very similar to how people is training obedience nowadays. They are starting with, let's say, food in the hand and build up the muscle memory, the right action in the dog, the right behavior, and then later we teach the dog it's nice to be here, and then we build it from there. So we make a basic foundation which actually is built on what the judge wants to see. So I don't care about deep footprint in the beginning. For me, it doesn't matter that the dog can see the footprint as long as the dog cannot see the food in the track. And I was preaching that to some of my seminar for a while ago. And then there was a young lady showing up to the seminar. After a week, she sent a picture to me of a very beautiful track. You can see that on my Facebook page. It was a almost full circle track, semicircle, in some hard gravel. And she asked me, is that okay? And I said, whoa, it looks very, very beautiful. But can you please tell me, how have you been able to lay that beautiful track so precisely consistent in the rhythm with the footprint in some hard gravel? And then she replied, it's my horse. And I was in shock. I think, what the heck? For me, that's awesome that people dare to think out of the box, because we need that. And I encourage her. And then she started using that horse in gravel pits and all places, and took the horse away and put food in the horse's footprint. And she was actually doing very good on track that way. And then that nice guy, Erling, he was showing up to one of my seminars. And after that, he contacted me and said, when I told that story, what about we make a track in wet concrete? And I was like, wow, why not? And it had taken us a long time. And he have pushed me and pushed me and pushed me until I decided, okay, let's give it a shot. And it was most of all to provocate people, but also because for me, it literally makes sense. What is wrong by starting building up a muscle memory? Then we put it on social media now, and it was also almost a shitstorm who was going on there. There was tons of people who think that was funny, interesting. I have hundreds of people contacting me to ask me, what is that? But typical, let me be quite frankly, man who's over 50 years old, who have been in dog sport for many years, they didn't understand it. And when men don't understand it, they get immediately aggressive and negative and offending in the language. So they start yelling and screaming, and that's wrong, and blah, 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 blah. And then a lot of them, they didn't know me. And then I sent some of my results to them from my track outcome. And then it was like some of them disappear, would not speak with me anymore. And therefore, I think now we have a great opportunity to explain to people, what is it about that concrete track? And what is my idea about it, and how should that work in the future? And we're actually talking about making the version 2.0, where we'll put heating element underneath. So during the winter time, when it's frozen and snow, we just put on the electric power, and it will be hot. So it's just the meal the dog get there. Of course, I know you'll never go to the World Championship just by tracking in that concrete circle track, but you can build an excellent foundation, just like people nowadays is starting the obedience on the kitchen floor.
How long would you continue to use that concrete track? Through the whole course of the dog's whole life, or
until my
what are you thinking?
until my dog can do a good job there. And that depends, of course, of the dog's quality, the handler's quality, how much you're training. But I consider it more as the dog's food bowl. That's the place where you get your meal, your daily meal. So I can do that in a very few days, or I could do it every day if I want. But don't see it as, oh, my dog will be better to track if I do that 5 million times. No, not at all. But it's a good way to build up food drive. And most important for me, understand what is the basic foundation and the philosophy in my way of teaching dog to track, the opposite reflex of the leash pressure. When you see the poor rat here, who have been used so many times, when you see on the video, when I pull and the dog fight against the leash down in the footprint, I release the leash. So it's a win-win situation for the dog. The dog get the reward down in that very, very, very deep footprint, and the leash is loose. So the dog gets used to, whoa, it's actually nice comfort with a loose leash. And that is actually the first step for me to teach a dog later in life to track without leash. So the story is, you want it, take it. You want it, take it. You want it, take it. Just like people is doing when they play with a ball in obedience, or the dumb ball, or whatever. All aspect in dog training, we play that game with opposite reflex of the leash pressure. But why don't we do it on track? It's my whole story. No more, no less. And therefore, I think it's so funny that people say, why are you pulling so much in the leash? Why are you pulling in the leash just before your dog get the ball in obedience when you play with the ball on the ground? I don't see any difference there. It's the same game. But when people don't understand it, imagine it was small tennis ball who was down in the footprint that the dog have to pick up. The only story is I'm teaching the dog to fight against the leash and get the ball. Therefore, I'm building drive up just like people is doing with the ball. And at the same time, my dog learn how can I get rid of a pressure by banging my nose down, because then the pressure disappear. I hope that makes sense. Or else, please ask me again. I would love to explain it.
You know, it's funny though. We trained this weekend, me and my group here. A lot of them were trying to use some of the same techniques. And the funny thing is, we had a discussion about it. And what we thought was interesting is how easy you make it look and how hard it is to get it right the first couple times that you do it, because it just takes time. I still make mistakes too, but it's a lot of times people don't realize that you're having a tight leash the whole time, or you're using the leash like a steering wheel. You need to loosen it up. It's just little details like that. It came up, and you just showed the example with Jack, and I was thinking about it. Been doing this for 2 years, and I still make mistakes.
It's so very true what you're saying. I'm just arriving from Ireland, and I could see when I was practicing that with the dogs. In the beginning, I asked people, should I handle your dog? I would gladly do that. For a few steps, then you have to do it, because I'm leaving the seminar Sunday afternoon, and then you're all alone. And I could see in people's eyes now and then when I get too excited, and I say, please, can I handle your dog? And I took the leash, and honestly, the outcome was better. And I spent a lot of time telling people, explaining to them, hey, come on, I've done that for many years. I'm doing that with 100 different dogs each year. So it's so easy, much easier for me to handle the dog, just like anything else, if you would talk about handcraft. And it was surprising to see how fast people actually got it. And I could see it like in people's mind, the shoulders and the eyes when people said, can you feel when you're doing right and wrong now? Yes, Lars, yes. And so the good part is you're not in doubt. You can feel it immediately when you do it right and when you do it wrong. People have a certain tendency to do it too hard, so the dog give up. They expect the dog will fight like a million, but the dog have never tried before, probably, with food. That's why I suggest that people are starting with a food ball on the kitchen floor to build that drive up with the leash before they go to the concrete track. So it's actually starting at a very, very low level and building that up to fight against the leash.
And don't worry, we did lots of videos on it for the track book.
Exactly. That's what.
You're not going to comment on my Spider-Man mug? You don't like that?
It's very beautiful. Is there any special reason for that?
Yeah, my world's worst dog trainer cup was dirty and it's in the dishwasher.
Well, then I have to brag a little bit. Look at this nice one. This is a small Italian one for my espresso. And it's actually my daughter who made it to me.
Your daughter made it?
My daughter, she's very creative. So, yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
You said you were an arrogant bastard and that you had tracking all figured out. Tell us a little bit about your wonderful success at the Nationals.
Well, it is like that. And I think that is very similar to many people, that if we are convinced about that we know something and we are doing good, nobody can convince us about that we don't know anything. Because, hey, we are doing good. So to change that mindset that maybe you could learn something, you need to make a lot of fail, because or else why change a winning team? And my biggest problem was I was so lucky that I was having a lot of success when I started with dogs back in 80s, 90s. I was having great success from the beginning. Maybe because I was lucky, maybe because I was hardworking, maybe because I was having an incredible dog. But that cost me. I'm sorry to say nowadays, I realize that I was turning into being a really arrogant prick because I was convinced about I know everything. And that is really dangerous because if you don't have an open mind, you will lock down and then you will not get all the new knowledge. And therefore, it was actually my lot nowadays that I later in life was failing very dramatically. It was hard for me. It hurts me a lot. My self-confidence was really going down. It was not nice. But then I at least opened my mind and said, I don't have any alternative. I must try to do it in another way. And I mean, people must understand that to be creative or start thinking in another way, people is never doing that if they have success. Why should they? Why should they? I mean, a good example was during the Second World War in Denmark, we was lack of coffee. And therefore, the farmer figured out we could roast some corn from the farmer's field, and that could taste a little bit like coffee. And then we could gain that into the coffee, so the coffee lasts for a longer time. But do you think that the farmer will try all those experiment to do that if we have coffee enough? No way. We did it because we was under pressure, of course. And that was exactly the same with my track. I was failing dramatically 2 times, and it was to big competition. It was to the Danish nationals, and it was to an American competition named World Dog Masters Tournament. So I was very open to change because there was no alternative.
Should we talk about my first track experience?
With me?
Nobody cares. My last tracking at a trial, but we don't need to talk about it.
But
And nobody cares anyway.
Well, I think, and that's actually, and I know now I'm getting a little bit controversial and pushing people a little bit. I think it's very interesting to see the big difference between man and woman.
Okay.
First of all, over 70% of all my client is woman on my live seminar. And I was very surprised about that in the beginning. Now I know it's a coincidence, it's not because of me, but I see more and more women is winning competition. I mean, that's actually facts. CI World Championship this time, we can discuss who was the real winner, but actually both of them, no matter which one you choose, was woman. And number 3 was woman. And the best track, the best obedience, and the best protection work, woman. And the same for the German Shepherd World Championship. A woman who was the winner. And I was speaking with my wife about that, and she said to me, but Lars, that's how life is. Look at the gym. Go down to the local gym. The old dude, he's entering the gym if he's getting a little bit too fat, and he's paying the fee, and then, I can do it myself. And then he go and lift a lot of weights and fast gets shoulder injured or whatever it is, because he don't want to listen to all that blah, blah, blah. The lady, she go into the gym, pay the fee, and the first thing she's typical doing is asking for a private trainer because she wants to lose some weight, she wants instruction in deadlifting or squat so she can get a better butt or whatever it is. But they don't see it as losing something to ask for help, but they also ask and want result. So therefore, sorry to say, it is doing much better nowadays because they are not like, I know everything. No, they are very open-minded. Say, I don't know, but I would like to learn.
By the way, I just want you to know you're going to hate me.
I do that on a daily basis. You know that.
I know. I have that way of doing it.
But before you say that, if people is listening to this we're doing now, they have to understand that when I was, so to speak, hiring you to help me with the book, I didn't know how many sickness you was having inside your head. And I think that's
it's quite a few. It's a weird place to live.
That, but the problem is, if I should be the person who keep you down, because I'm the same. So that's why people can imagine how much it have taken off sometimes with our book with crazy ideas. But I have really enjoyed. Well, it's not an easy process.
It has not been easy. It's been a lot of work. I did want to tell you, though, before we go back to the women, because I have some questions about that, pulled a bunch of quotes from the book. I'm going to read the quote from the book, and then we're going to discuss it. It's going to be a fun game. I think it will be fun, though. I think it'll be fun.
3.
So do you think it's more women are enjoying more success right now? Because, I mean, it's pretty obvious. They've all been winning a lot. Is it an attitude thing only? Or do you think that's really the most of it?
No, I also think that we are lucky because when we are adopting new members in dog sport, at least what I see in Europe, Many places in US too. Some of the ladies who is joining, they're typical coming from other kind of dog sport or from the horse world. So they're used to deal with animals. Some of the guys who is coming is maybe coming from the police world or the military world with a protection dog or military dog, which is a completely another kind of world. It's more dominant and more masculine, where the other world is more like training animals. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're thinking, it kind of starts off with kind of the skill tree that they're starting off with and the skill set that they have. And then it's just a natural progression from point A to point B, as opposed to point A, then you go to point C, you got to unlearn a bunch of things. You go back to point B, and now we go to point, does that make sense?
Yes.
Part of the learning process.
But also another
Oh,
thing
go
that
ahead.
strikes me is that I very often see man, when you try to convince them about something that they don't believe, it's very much like talk to the hand. They feel unsecure, like they are losing something, like they are losing masculinity or power or status if they have to admit that there's something they don't know. Well, ladies is much more
Yeah.
honest about that. I say, no way. I would just like to learn more.
All right. So first quote I'm going to bring up. You're going to love this. You ready? Now, spoiler alert, this either comes from part of our discussions or from pieces of the book. Okay, but quote number one, let's talk about this because I think it's interesting. People can be lazy and people can be impatient. But when they're lazy and impatient, that's a bad combination. A lazy person needs patience, an impatient person needs to work hard. You can't be both. It's a recipe for disaster. That's one of our quotes from the book. I like that quote. So let's talk about that. Because I think it sets the expectation of what people need to do.
I remember that very clearly. And I have to give you that. You have written that in a very nice, polite language. Thank you very much. Because that's not how I typically say it. I typically say that I have discovered that a lot of dog people have a very rare disease, which is a mix between very lazy and very impatient. And that's a bad, bad combination. It is okay to be impatient, but then you have to work your ass off, because else you will never reach the result. At the other hand, you can be very patient, but then it's the other way around, where you cannot have both. You need to have patience or work your ass off. You need to work no matter what, but it's easier if you have a little bit patience.
I think that is something I remember. If you remember, we had to
cut corners in your training instead of make the basic good enough. And if people don't make the basic foundation good enough, they will build up problem, multiply them much. I mean, all of us know if we have a small kid in school and the first day we ask the kid, what is 1 + 1? If they say 3, all of us know it's wrong. All of us know, hey, if we want to do good in the future, we need to fix that before we continue the travel. But none of us know how long time it will take to fix that. It could take 5 seconds, it could take 5 years. But in that case, if we're impatient there, we can end up in deep shit, because then we just ignore the wrong answer.
I remember when we had a conversation, and do you remember when I came to your seminar 3 years ago and you said, okay, I want you to lay the semicircle, and I laid the semicircle and I put like a 200 pace track out there with everything. And I remember everybody was looking at me and like I had lost my mind, and you were just like, what did you do? I said, you said lay a track with the semicircle, so I did. And I remember we had the conversation about it, and it just kind of reframed my expectation of what taking your time means. Because I think in a lot of ways we don't take our time. I think in a lot of ways we really get to a point to where we have unfair expectations of our dogs and ourselves, and we don't understand patience.
Yes, but in some way we have also lost now and then, so to speak, the Zen Buddhism in our life, that enjoy the small moment, enjoy the little thing, and really enjoy and capture that, instead of just looking for the big goal. Because if the little goal is not there, you will never reach it. I think I'm very lucky. I know that. I'm blessed. I think if people train together with me, everybody will say, whoa, Lars, you're spending a lot of time on foundation, on track with your puppies. And they are right. But I'm doing that in such a young age. So when the foundation is okay, I can take off. So I can go for the complete education before the dog's 3 years old. I mean, IGP 123, FH 123. So it's not like we have to make that travel for a long, long time for the rest of their life. And I think actually it's because people who don't make the proper foundation, they maybe move fast in the beginning, but then they struggle for the rest of their life with the same problem. Article on track, corners, chewing and dumble, whatever it is. But again, remember, that's only my opinion. And I really don't hope that I piss people too much off. I try to do it with a smile on my face, because we need to have some fun in dog sport.
That's the truth. I think people forget that. I mean, yeah, there's professional dog trainers that this is their profession, but for the vast majority of us, this isn't our side job. It's not our day job, and you should have some fun while you're doing it.
I'm sorry to say, I know we get carried a little bit away now. When I have seminars, I very often see people who maybe have a really, really hard civilian job, working tons of hours, the first 5 days in a week to gain money, to have a hobby with dogs. And then they go to seminars or to workshops or to training, and they don't look happy. They are maybe crying, get frustrated, yelling and screaming, and go back home. And you know what? Then it's Monday morning again, and then they have to go back to the job again. That's an evil circle, if you ask me. That's the wrong life. So think about that, please. We need to have fun, or else we're doing it wrong.
So, fun question from the book. You claim
Two left.
articles are the most. Oh no, we got more. We got more than just two.
No way.
So you claim the most important exercise in IGP is a 7-point article, and in some ways more important than a 90-point protection routine. I know what you mean by that, but maybe you could explain that into a little bit of detail. I think people would kind of be curious as to why you would say that.
First of all, I will say all of us know that an article have a value of 7 point. But that means, I will claim, I cannot prove it 100%, but I will claim, that means if your dog indicate an article, perfect, you will own 7 point. But if your dog miss an article, very, very often you see the dog lose more than 7 point in that case, because the dog in that case stop 1 split second and decide to continue tracking. And in that case, the dog say, fuck, I blew it. I made a mistake. I'm not quite sure which mistake I made, but I make a mistake. And then the dog start, in that case, getting a little bit unsecure, maybe coming back and asking for forgiveness, trying to redo it, hyperventilating, stressing, speeding up. So there will be some very, very often some negative side effect of missing point. So I know I'm provoking people now, I'm controversial, but I will claim that missing an article average cost you maybe 9-10 point. And even if you have a dog who don't have that negative side effect, if you just one time in your life have tried to make an IGP3 track where your dog missed the 2 first article, you will notice suddenly it's a very, very, very long track, because you don't have the chance to go and confirm to your dog you're doing good body and all that. And the dog get hectic and you get hectic and frustrated, so it is not doing anything better. At the same time, sorry to say, if your dog don't understand an article on track, there's a huge chance that it's because the dog don't understand the exercise. And then I have bad news to you. There's 3 of them on the track. It's not so many exercises we have in the dog sport where we have to repeat it 3 times. So if your dog cannot do it, it's not only one time you miss it. There's a huge chance your dog will miss more than 1 article.
Yeah, I've seen that happen plenty of times.
And I mean, so many dogs nowadays is missing article, and they're actually tracking good. And I think it's the way we're training it, but that's a long story which people can learn about in the book.
We did spend a lot of time on articles.
Yeah.
Including you watching me with my articles.
And I'm going to spend a lot of time making photos and videos about it. So I try really the best I can to explain to people how I do it. But again, remember that it's only my story. There's many road who leads to Rome.
Yeah, one thing I'll throw out there for everybody who watches and listens. When Lars and I did this whole thing, there's a couple things. First, we recorded the book, kind of like in the same model of the conversation you're getting right now. So that was step 1. Step 2, which we've started getting into and we're in the process of finishing out, is basically doing a diagram for everything. So you'll have a step-by-step process. It's very easy, no fluff. It's separated, very segregated. You'll see what you need to do step by step. Lastly, pictures, and then the extra bonus on top, a video of Lars actually doing the technique, not me, because, well, we want the technique to work. So
as long as you promise me, we must try the best we can to explain to people it's only our story, because there's many different ways to do it. And I'm certainly not going into a game about who is best and who is doing good. The first thing I'm all the time explaining when I have seminars is, if what you're doing works good for you, don't listen to my story. Continue doing what you are doing and be happy for that. You don't need my help. I really love that people is questioning me, so I have to explain to them. I really enjoy that, because then I can be flashy. I love to hear myself speak. I love to hear that. But I think honestly, instead of being negative and then mind your own business, or keep your training for yourself as a secret, spread it out.
I've got like 20 quotes here. I'm going to pick two. So you only gave me three, but I'm going to take six. Quote from, I think this is chapter 9. You're not aiming for 100 points. You're aiming for 95. A 100-point dog is brittle, and 95-point dog wins.
Thank you very much. I actually is very happy that you're asking for that. In the beginning, when I was having seminars, it was so important for me to tell what I would like to teach people. And then later, I realized maybe that sometimes you need to listen to what is it people want to know. That's more interesting to preach. And one of the things I'm spending a lot of time doing nowadays is convincing people about personally is never aiming for 100 point when I go to track. I'm aiming for 95. If I am so lucky that I can make 95 point all over the world under all circumstances, I'm in the game for 100% sure. The problem is, if I'm aiming for more than that, I'm pushing the dog so much to be a robot and be so specific that there is a chance that I take the self-confidence away from the dog. And if I take the self-confidence away, it could cost a lot. Back in time, I will never aim for 95 point. Then it was 100 we was going for. But then and it was not only me, a lot of the people back in the old days, we was having a scorebook who was quite like this: 9900, 0000, 90, 000, 100, 000, because we have taken the ability away from the dog to fix problem by itself. There was no self-confidence in the dog. But you can keep the self-confidence if you're able to make 95 point. And as a side note to that, I think what I consider as good judges today, they are very good to judge, to see the dog. Is the dog independent? Can the dog fight through a problem all by itself? And that's actually like, you almost get extra point for that, where the judge typically say, your dog is doing a great job working out that hard problem the dog was having in that corner or that tire mark, whatever it was. Especially in my case, when I'm tracking without leash. And it's so essential for me to have that self-confidence in the dog.
All right, last question. This is a fun one. This is my quote, but it went into, I think, one of our sessions like three sessions ago. And I know I know. Here it comes.
Bring it on.
He knows which quote.
Bring it on.
He knows which quote he's getting. It's actually my quote. It's one of my favorite ones. Typical people with typical efforts get typical results. Weird people with extreme efforts get glitchy results. Be a glitchy person. And that was what our conversation based on being unique and being willing to try new things. So do you remember that conversation? If you don't, that's okay.
Yes, but you know what? Believe it or not, Wednesday this week, I'm going to a seminar with a guy where the headline is, maybe now and then it's okay to be average. And I'm looking so much forward to hear that, because that's one of my really hate words. I hate to be average because that's so boring. But maybe now and then we should accept and enjoy that we are that, because not all of us can be special. And maybe that could also be the jump to a higher level of understanding, that we accept for a short while to be average and enjoy that. But yes, in dog sport, I think that I met a lot of people who is immediately writing to me, Lars, I'm going to buy a puppy and I would like to go to the World Championship. Whoa. There is a huge chance that you will fail and get depressed. I mean, maybe you should aim a little bit lower and say, hey, I'm going to buy a puppy and I'm aiming for could make a BH. I mean, when I was getting my first dog, and I'm oldest, I'm very ambitious in what I'm doing in my life, but nevertheless, when I get my first job, my first German Shepherd, I have not even heard about the German Shepherd Club. I didn't know you could train it and go to that civilian. And then I go to some obedience trial. I was lucky to win that. And then I get hooked. But if I should start aiming for the World Championship, oh my God. So I think very often we get frustrated in our ambition instead of set up a goal you can reach.
So I think you still have some of the records in Denmark. I know we've got a bunch of World Championship winners that are writing something for the book. You made me think of something. I'm throwing you questions that we didn't, discuss or anything, so I apologize. I'm just throwing you. Do people really understand what it takes to win a world championship? I mean, I think a lot of times they want the ambition, but they don't always know what goes into it. I mean, can you explain a little bit about what it really means to win a world championship? Because I think a lot of us don't understand that, myself included.
Well, first of all,
I'm not pointing fingers.
I have never been so blessed winning any world championship. I have not even been close. I have been the best German Shepherd bitch to FCI World Championship one time. That was it. But I will say, just to qualify to the World Championship or qualify to a Nationals IGP3 competition or FH national competition, that require that you almost work like a pro. And that is getting more and more and more. One of the big thing I could do in the old days was I have learned to hard work always pays off. I just trained 10 times more than other people. But you cannot do that today because everybody's training a lot. So you need to be willing to see it as a lifestyle. I very often compare IGP sport with triathlon. I mean, if people have tried to do triathlon, they know they can easily train 8 hours per day. And then we are not talking about cleaning the bicycle and washing the clothes and the shower and the nutrition and the massage and all that you have to do. So therefore, I think a lot of people put themselves with the knife at the throat with putting too much pressure on themselves instead of, which is actually very, very popular, at least in Denmark, we have the nationals for IGP1 dog. And I think, why don't other people have that? I mean, we have the nationals for German Shepherd, IGP1 dog. We have the nationals for IGP1 for all breed. That is a very, very good step because you can do that if you work okay and you're having good people surrounding you. But then you get addicted to it and then you can go for the next goal. But if you're starting to say, I will go for the world, there's a huge chance that you'll be disappointed. And that's also one of the few things that I'm not competing nowadays. When people ask me for that, why you're not competing anymore, Lars? First of all, it's because I'm a really, really bad loser. And there's only one winner. And I clearly remember when Boris Becker, the German tennis player, he was stopping in a quite young age. A journalist was asking him, why are you stopping playing already now? And then he said, when you're concerned about losing is much, much stronger than the happiness for winning, then it's time to stop. And I see that in many people, that there's not a right balance in that. And then don't do it because there's only one who's winning. And it's not like, I mean, if you run 100-meter run, the fastest one is winning. But that's not how it is in dog sport. You need to have a super dog. You need to have a super team. You have to have a little bit of luck. You have to be into it in many ways. You have to invest a lot of money. So it's not so easy. Not at all. I mean,
I think it's,
I've seen people in Denmark training dogs for 30 years, not even qualify one time to the Danish national IGP.
and would you be willing to say that they were all good handlers that you've seen in that
Yeah, but
situation? I mean,
there could be many reasons. You can be very, very unlucky with bad dogs. You can surround you with bad people. You can not take the pressure. There could be many, many reasons. You can be sick yourself in your life. People all the time ran into something, divorces, job change, whatever it is. But that's why I think in dog world, we should be much better to make small competition and support people there so it will grow more.
awesome. Well, I think that covers this one. I'm good with it. Is that the conversation for today?
Awesome. I was very concerned
Awesome.
about you write something to me about a quote about Frankenstein. What the fuck is that?
Frankenstein techniques. We talked about it.
Have I talked about that?
No, you specifically didn't, but we did talk about people taking all their different techniques from one here, and then all of a sudden they create this mess in their dog and they don't know how to fix it. So that's where
Thank you.
the Frankenstein for
Thank you for the clarification.
is my turn.
So the Frankenstein monster. Thank you very much. I was, what the heck?
Man, that was a great question. What do you mean?
No. I was just, is that something I've said? I must have been drunk or smoking way too much weed or...
No, you didn't say that. That was me taking a bunch of things from our conversation and then reconfiguring it and saying, well, this is like a Frankenstein technique. You took an arm from Marco, you took a leg from Lars, we took a hand from Sarah Prell, we took a head from Ivan.
But all of us are that in some way, right?
We all are that way. That's something I'd like to discuss with you someday.
All the professional trainers is also, no matter does they want to admit it or not, they adopt ideas from other people. I mean, everything I'm preaching, it's not something I've invented. I've learned that from other people. I mean, for many years ago, there was a great, great track trainer in the United States, a German guy named Gottfried Dildai. He's dead now. He was a great inspiring for me. Great. So all of us is stealing or copy or explain it in another way after we have tried.
Man, there's so many good questions I want to dig into later. I don't know. We could probably put it in the back of the book or something.
Know the technique?
Finally. I really do want to get into, I don't know if it's appropriate for the book. Maybe it's something we offer in the super secret community that people don't know yet. I don't know. I better edit that out. I want it to be a surprise. I don't know. I'd like to talk about it. How do you steal and use and employ a technique effectively? Because there's lots of ways to steal a technique and do it wrong and then make a bigger mess. I was telling my guys here in Kansas this the other day, it's very, very easy to see somebody go do a technique and then go watch your go do it and think that you're doing it correctly. And then you see the video of you doing it and you realize it's shit and it doesn't look very
Yeah,
good.
but I think very often it works more like I go to a seminar, I learn a technique, I go home, I fuck it up, but I still try, and then I gain my own thing to that technique. And then suddenly, now it works for me, but then I have transformed it a little bit, just a little, switch it a little bit. I think that's what
Hmm.
works best for me.
I mean, your experience goes all the way back to the 80s. If I quit my job tomorrow and I start training dogs, I can't do it long enough to ever catch you in the number of years that you've done it.
No.
That's the reality. I can quit my job tomorrow and train dogs all day, and I won't have the amount of time into it that you do, which is wild to think about. Most people, when they think of things, they're like, "Oh yeah, I can take 5 years and work and be as good as so and so." No, man, there's something to be said for 40 years of work. So, am I ever going to catch somebody in terms of skill knowledge?
How the culture is completely changed compared to in the old days. And I'm certainly not saying it was better in the old days, but it have changed. And that is both good and bad.